From One West to God Bless, the Brother Willie story. Yep, what's going on, party people? The place to be. I go by the name of the BK Apologist, transmitting all the way live. New York is the city. Brooklyn is the borough. What's good? What's popping? Hope everybody's doing well. As always, if you have not yet already, please like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend that's him again. We're trying to get 6,000 subs before year's end, and that can only happen if the chat really supports me by simply just, putting a link into your Twitter, your IG, your Facebook, just letting people know that, there's some amazing content going on here. And if you like the content, you could show your appreciation via throwing some digital coinage via the PayPal link that's pinned on top of the chat. Or if you'd like to be a monthly supporter, you can become a Patreon where you get an assortment of goodies to enhance your personal Bible study. And today I have the honor, this is actually a very first for me on this channel, where I actually get to interview somebody who was formerly a Hebrew Israelite. And of course, I'm talking about our good friend here, Brother Willie. What's going on, bro?
How's it going, bro? Everything's all good on this end, just ready to, tell my story about how I was in this One West cult and how I got out of it, and just it's a quite the story, to be honest.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. Can't wait to get into it. But before we get to first of all, let people know which particular camp you was a part of.
I was a part of the Israelite Church of God in Jesus Christ, or ICGJC, which is the original One West school.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't know that. I think when people think of the original One West, they think of ISUPK, but in fact, it was the camp that you were a part of, historically speaking, was the original One West, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Richard says your sound's a little low. If you could pick up your volume, that'd be greatly appreciated, Willie.
Okay.
Richard, let me know if he sounds better, okay? All right, so, but before we get to the camp thing, right? Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about your spiritual journey prior to the camp. Like, were you a believer? Were you atheist? Muslim? Were you agnostic? Like, where were you at prior to your joining with the camp?
Well, I was actually raised in the Baptist church.
Okay.
Yeah, I grew up in the Baptist church. I'm originally from Louisiana, so I grew up in a predominantly African American family in the South, and I was raised Baptist. And I was in the Baptist church from birth until about 21 years old, and that's when I came across the Hebrew Israelite, the Black Hebrew Israelite groups.
All right. Now, were you a cultural Christian, meaning like did you just go Christmas and Easter, or were you somebody that went like every Sunday? You went to midweek service, or was you just like what level of commitment did you have?
It was a high level of commitment to it that my parents had instilled in me, because I was going to church on Sundays. Whenever they would have revival in the spring, I was there. Basically, throughout the year, if there was things like, pastor's anniversary, choir anniversary, that kind of thing, I was there.
Okay.
So I was vacation Bible school, I was deeply involved.
Oh, you serious with it? Okay. If you the minute you said, vocation school, that's serious. That's serious. So, okay. So, all right. So were you still attending that church when you started talking to these guys, or was there like a break at all?
Initially, I was still attending, the Baptist church I grew up in. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so break it down. How did you first find out about this particular One West camp?
Well, I was on the internet. I was googling stuff. I think, and I'm a fan of the rapper Nas. I'm going to take it back a little bit to
Okay, me too. Me
2002.
too. You got good taste. You got good taste, Willie. You got good taste. All right,
Yeah.
yeah. I knew I like you for a reason. All right, yeah.
Yeah. This was around the time that his album God's Son came out,
Okay.
I had came across a guy from New York City, Puerto Rican dude that had been taught by ICGJC back when they were uh, ICUPK in the
Okay.
90s.
Okay.
And I started talking to him on Nas's message board that he had on the time on his website. And we started talking off the message board, back when this was back when AOL Instant Messenger was still a thing.
All right.
And so we exchanged each other's handles and started talking. And he was the guy that introduced me to their 12 tribes chart, the Lashawan
Mm,
Kwadash. Uh, Now, at first, when I came across this guy, he taught me what ICUPK used to teach, what ICGJC used to teach about the names of God the Father and God the Son. That they don't teach this anymore, but the other camps do.
mm,
That that God the Father is Yahweh and Jesus Christ is Yahweh Shai.
right.
And he also taught me their salute. And I was learning from him for months up until about May 2003. And I was on the internet Googling stuff, and I came across, I don't know, I can't remember exactly. I think it was something about the Roman Catholic Immaculate Conception. I might have been looking up, and I see a link in a Google search that says Holy Conception Unit. And I click on it, and it's it's ICGJC's new website, because I saw that they had changed their name to ICGJC but when I first heard of them, they were ICUPK, Israeli Church of Universal Practical Knowledge. Now they're calling themselves Israelite Church of God in Jesus Christ. It was Israelite Church of God and AND Jesus Christ at first.
Okay.
The God, yeah, the God in Jesus Christ came years later after I came in. But
Okay.
I went on their website, and you see this huge icon of uh, the Virgin Mary and Christ Child from the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, and it's dark. So I click on it, and they have a form, but I know I'm not officially a member of this organization. I see that they have a forum where people can come on there and ask questions, and most of the people I saw were actually from physical locations that actually had a branch of this organization. But, me being, young, and, I was only 21 years old at the time, and I would just think, well, let me go on here and see. Let me sign up for an account, and let's just see how things go with this. Well, needless to say, I was not warmly received by them when I first went on their website and started posting. They were rushing me in the comments asking me what camp was I from, and I didn't know what that meant.
Right.
And it was because I was coming on there, I was from Louisiana, and here it is, I'm coming on their website with a Lashawan Kwadash name. So they think that I'm a so-called rebel from another camp, or that's what they call the people from the other Hebrew Israelite camps, One West camps. They call them rebels and
Right. Right.
antichrist.
So wait a minute, Willie. So you already started using a name from that particular Lashawan Kadash. You was already using that.
Yeah, I had already gotten a name from that Lashawan Kwadash.
So what did you call yourself? If you don't mind me asking.
Uh, Napash Amath.
Napash. Wow. Okay. And what did that mean?
Yeah, it means Napash means soul, Amath means truth, so soul of truth.
Okay. Okay. All right. Cool. 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 Continue.
yeah, eventually what happens is, they're asking me what camp am I from. I don't know what they're talking about. And it gets to the point where the webmaster of the site, he's one of their so-called apostles now. He was a 13 shield general back then. He gets he wants to talk to me on AOL Instant Messenger after he hit the dude up that I was learning from on AOL Instant Messenger. And
All right, so now hold up. You say he is a 13 shield general?
at the
Break that
time,
down.
yeah,
What does that mean? 13 shield.
that's one of the ranks in their ranking structure. They have a ranking structure uh, that is mandatory for men to be involved with. Starting with when you join ICGJC, you have to join what they call the New Hebrew Academy, which is the introduction to their ranking structure, and it goes like this. And I'm going to start from top to bottom. You have the holy apostles and chief high priests, which this was their original order of apostles that was started in that organization around 2001, if I'm not mistaken. And for the past couple of years or so, the main people that had this rank were uh, Arya, who was responsible for teaching the 12 tribe sign. He's the one that started teaching that.
Mm-hmm.
Shar, another elder that's been with them, I think, since the 70s. He was one of the original seven heads of ISUPK, and he's still there. And Jermaine Grant, aka Tazadakia, um,
Right, the
who,
comforter. Right.
yeah, so called.
Right.
Yeah.
All right,
Um,
so yeah. Continue.
yeah. Okay. Then underneath the so-called holy apostles and chief high priests, you have another order of 12 apostles underneath the original order that's called the holy apostles and chief high priests. This was something Tazadaki set up around 2012. I was at the Passover that year when he actually played a video montage showing the first the inauguration of these so-called 12 apostles. This was something he set up. And then the difference is that if you become a so-called holy apostle and chief high priest, first of all, you have to have had a lifetime of dedication in that place. And then second of all, once you become a so-called holy apostle, you can't lose your rank. Whereas if you join the so-called order of 12 apostles underneath them, you can lose your rank. They call it getting busted down, losing rank, getting
Right.
demoted. And then
Okay.
underneath them, those apostles, you have what's called the Comforters Order of the 42 Chief Priests. This is something else Tazadaki set up in around 2009 or so.
Right.
Um, Originally, they had what was called the Order of Bishops and High Priests and the High Priest of States. For anybody that's been in there, that's in the audience, that's been in there long enough, you know about this. Well, Tazadaki replaced that Order of High Priests of States with this Order of Chief High Priests. Excuse me, Order of the Comforters Order of 42 Chief Priests. And the 42 doesn't mean literally 42 chief priests. It's a whole numerological breakdown behind that. You
Okay.
know, 42 divided by 12 is 3.5, and you move the decimal over, you get 350. 350 years, the times and a dividing of time in the book of Revelation and Daniel, which is supposed to represent 1619 to 1969, the amount of years that slavery was supposed to have taken place in America. And then after that, the people that they teach, the Israelites, were supposed to be led out of America, set back in the land of Israel, told they were Israelites and be allowed to rule. But the white man who they teach as Esau
Right.
denied Christ and didn't let it happen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that hierarchy sounds very complicated. But anyway, let's get back to you talking to the webmaster, trying to figure you out, right? So take it from there.
So he basically he asked me, he's grilling me, asking me, why do you want to post on our forum? And I tell him I want to post on the forum, because I just want to ask questions. I just want to learn. Is what I told him. I just want to learn. And then he goes, "Well, if it was just about learning, you could have just started asking questions." Um, and then he goes on to tell me, just ask questions on the forum. You don't go trying to teach whatever it is you think you know. Just ask questions. Okay. And he allowed me to start doing that. And that's how I initially started learning from them. And uh, around 2005, they started allowing me to mail order their DVDs from their video department, which is ran rather by their Philadelphia branch of
Okay.
ICGJC.
Okay.
And I started ordering DVDs from them. And eventually that leads me to the first Passover I ever went to, which was in 2007. And
So you came to New
um,
York for that?
uh, originally I traveled to New Jersey because that's where my hotel was at. But yeah, that Passover that year was in New York. It was in the Hammerstein Ballroom.
Okay.
Yeah. And I got on this Greyhound bus and took a 1 day and 15-hour trip from Louisiana to Newark, New Jersey, where
Uh,
my hotel was at. I was staying in a Holiday Inn in Newark with a man from California and his wife who was in ICGJC at the time. They're not there anymore. But I was staying with them because the man that I was staying with actually, he booked my whole trip and everything, and he got that set up.
okay.
So I go out there and I stay with them, and we drive to Passover, and there's a long line all the way to the Hammerstein Ballroom, and I start meeting people. One of the first people I met was his name is Shabar, rest in peace, Shabar, who was, if anybody remembers the BBC special that what's that guy's name? The guy from England that he did with ICUPK. It was ICUPK at the time.
Okay.
Uh, but Shabar is actually featured in the video clips of that BBC special that Louis Theroux.
Okay.
Yeah, Louis Theroux did a special on ICUPK, and you can see Shabar in the video clips of that special. He's a tall guy with a turban around his head. He was also in the episode of Jerry Springer that featured uh Shar and Tazadaki, and Shabar was
Mm.
there too.
Okay.
From back in 1997, you can see Shabar on there too, the tall guy with the turban around on his head. He
Mm-hmm.
he passed away some time ago, but he was one of the first people that I met standing in line for Passover in 2007. And we go in there, and I had never seen anything like this before. And a lot of the people from my CGJC, I made it a point to get to know a lot of them before I went up there. So um, it was it there it. Despite this being the first time I had ever met any of these people in person, you wouldn't know it from the reaction that they got from seeing me. It was like some long lost friends that I was reconnecting with
Mm.
after having not seen them for years. That's what it felt like.
Okay.
And this was the first time I ever met most of these people, all of these people, really. Um, because now I know what that is. They were love bombing me. They were looking at me like, Wow, who's this brother from Louisiana? Man, this guy really seems like he's down with this truth and everything. He's finally made it. Man, let me go talk to this brother. That was the whole thing, because I made it a point to get to know a lot of the people outside of New York and in New
Right.
York, online on their Holy Conception Unit forum. I even would talk to a lot of them over the phone. So I had already established some kind of rapport with them before meeting them.
All
And
right. So let's take a little detour. So you're getting the DVDs, right? You're getting all these breakdowns and teachings.
mhm.
What was I need to really get into? Like what were some of the main things?
Oh, can you repeat that, brother BK? Your connection kind of went out. It
Oh, okay. Yeah. When you was getting the DVDs and getting all these breakdowns and teachings, like what were some of the things that they were teaching you that that resonated with you that made you feel like, you know what, these guys are onto something. I need to learn from these guys. Like what are like one or two things that really got you going?
Okay, first and foremost, it was the Deuteronomy 28:68 breakdown about slavery. That one got me. That was the one that really
Okay.
got me, because I had never heard that explained like that, and trying to connect it to the transatlantic slave trade. And, it made all the sense in the world to me at the time, you know,
Right.
that could be talking about slavery, and being that it was a curse that happened to the children of Israel. And it's talking to me, at the time about slavery. It was like I'm thinking I'm connecting the dots. So it's like, yeah, this is talking about us being sold into
Right.
slavery as male and female slaves. Yeah, that my reaction was like, yeah, this did happen to us.
Right. It makes perfect sense. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So all right, so you went to the Passover. When did you officially become a member? Was it during that time or was it later on?
Well, I was pretty much already considered to be a member of upon joining their Holy Conception Unit Forum, which is actually, it's more than just a forum. That's a whole unit, Holy Conception, within ICGJC that Tazadakia actually set up. So I thought I was just joining a forum on a website, but no, this they actually use that Holy Conception Unit website to, especially at the time, to recruit people.
Right.
Because after I came in, I started seeing more people from out of state, outside the East Coast, and areas that never had a ICGJC, people from different states, like you know, just different states that didn't have a branch, and even different countries, people
Mm-hmm.
from Canada, people from London, UK.
Wow.
So, you know, they were using that form as a recruitment tool. I
Right.
just didn't see it that way at the time. I was just thinking, hey, this is
Mm-hmm.
the place where I can come and learn and ask questions. But that Holy Conception Unit is set up to deal with people like myself, people that never had a branch of their organization. That's exactly what that Holy Conception Unit website was set up for, and I had no idea.
Okay. So now, was there like an official like a ritual or a ceremony that made you an official member, or it was just understood that you was down? Like how did that
Nah,
work?
no, it wasn't no ritual or ceremony or nothing like that. They just understood that I was down with what they call the truth, and so they just,
Okay.
once I started learning from them, they just accepted me from there.
Okay. So um, did they ever expand to Louisiana, or you just kept like the internet thing with them?
No, they in the entire 22 years I was there, they never actually set up a ICGJC New Orleans. They're trying to now, but when the
Mm.
whole time that I was there, they never set anything up. But they're like feverishly trying to set up one now. I will say that. You know.
Okay. All right, so you're basically in. Um, talk about some of the good times, like some of the high points you had being part of the camp.
Um, for me, it was always whenever I could travel, to any events that they had, the Passovers. I also attended the Archangel Awards, which was their. It was a whole award show that they had, centered around rewarding congregants for different things, and the award was it was basically the Israelite version of the Grammys, pretty much.
Okay.
Uh, and they the reward was this gold trophy in the shape of an angel with two wings and a huge afro and a beard. That's what it looked like. You know,
Okay.
and
That's what's up.
you know, and you would often have you know celebrities performing there. Like for example, Wanye Morris and Sean Stockman from Boyz II Men, who are actually former members of ICGC. Um, uh, they had people, secular, completely secular artists like Tank and Slick
Really,
Rick.
Tank was down
Yeah.
with them. Wow. Okay.
No, not at all. They just had him perform one year,
Okay.
and him and Slick Rick came and
Oh, okay.
performed one year, and Carl Thomas. You know, these were just people from in the music industry that some kind of way, I guess, Taz Sadakia or whoever, made, reached out to them and was able to get them to perform. But
Oh
that's,
man, so the money must have been good in your camp because them dudes weren't cheap during, especially when they were, when they were hot. You know what I mean? So you guys had some
yeah.
money behind you. You
Oh
know?
yeah, absolutely. All those millions of dollars that that were getting funneled by the
Right.
by yeah. That's the kind of stuff it was going to.
All right. So did you make it to like did you go every year to the Passover, or like how frequent did you go to New York?
It wasn't every year because I wasn't able to, afford doing it, go making that trip every year. And for a long time I would feel bad about it because they teach in there that you have to keep high holy days for salvation.
Right.
Even
Right.
not just Leviticus 23 either, even Hanukkah and Purim.
Mm.
Um, that's what they teach. And they treat the first night of Passover as a Sabbath, and if you don't make it there, that's a offense that could actually get you summoned to one of their disciplinary councils in New York City. Which,
Wow.
if you get summoned to any councils, you have to make it there. No
Wow.
matter where you're
Wow.
from, you have to
Okay.
travel there.
Okay. All right. So when did it start? When did the cracks started forming for you? Like, what was the initial things that made you start saying, "Wait a minute, something's not right"? Like, what was one of the initial things?
Um, Actually, it started over the process of a year from 2024 to 2025, which was the year that I left. Um, I'll just start with the spring of 2024. I got really sick and I went to the ER in another town, another city, an hour away from me, and they ran tests on me and told me I had a small bowel obstruction, which that's an issue. That's if you don't hurry up and get emergency surgery, it can actually prove to be fatal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so they did that, and this is it. That see, Passover was coming up around the time that this happened, and it was the first Passover that they had ever since COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Because during the years that COVID was at its peak, they weren't having Passover, but
Yeah, New York was shut down during COVID. Absolutely.
right, right,
Right.
right. And well, here's the thing. everybody has a chief priest that's over their area, especially those that don't have a branch of that organization. And I have to, if you're sick, you have to report you have to report it to this chief priest. You know, it's
Okay.
it's everything about you, just about you have to report to these chief priests over you. So I had to tell him, what was going on with me,
Uh-huh.
and that they were going to do surgery on me. And this guy just we were communicating through I don't know if you know what the Signal app is.
I've heard of
Um,
it. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's what they started mandating, that we use to contact our chief priests, our so-called chief priests. You can't just text their phone anymore.
Right.
You have to use Signal, which is an encrypted text messaging app. They're trying to hide their text messages from the wrong eyes, I guess. Um, so I had to talk to this chief priest via Signal and tell him that I'm about to go have surgery for this small bowel obstruction, and he texts me back talking about I'm in excruciating pain, with pain from my stomach radiating to my back. I can barely walk. I can't stand to lay down or sit up or stand or any of that. Stomach is all bloated and I can barely walk. And this guy gonna text me back telling me, uh, "Oh, that's great, sir. That's great. Hopefully that'll get you fixed up in time for Passover." So they go and do the surgery, and while I'm in the hospital bed recovering, I'm in immense pain. And this guy texts me telling me, "You need to send the bishop over your Sabbath attendance." What I mean by that is, they were doing Sabbath conference calls, and they still do. And ever since COVID, they've been doing this. They've been having Sabbath, and he
You're breaking up, Willie. You froze up, Willie. All right. I think he froze. Willie, can you still hear us? Willie? Let's see here. All right. So, trying to find out what's going on here with Willie. Hopefully he'll return shortly. All right. So to then, we gotta say what's up to the Orthodox More. We got Lauren. We got JJ in the building. What's going on, sir? Richard still in the building. 02122. All right. Yeah, yeah, he froze up. Something happened to his connection. So hopefully he'll be returning shortly. But just saying what's up to the people. I hope everybody's doing well. You know. Oh, I think he's coming back. Let's see. There he is.
Okay, yeah, just some technical difficulties. Had some internet connection issues.
So good, so good. So yeah, so these dudes had an issue with you not being at the Passover because of your um, sickness.
Yeah, yeah. I was being told I had to get a doctor's excuse and send this bishop uh, paperwork of my diagnosis as proof that I had this sickness.
Wow.
Just yeah, just telling them that I had a sickness wasn't good enough.
Right.
And because if I didn't do that, then it will be counted against me as a Sabbath violation, and I would have to
Mm.
come to the council to explain why I didn't come to Passover if I didn't provide that documentation to them.
So did you provide it?
Yeah, I did. Well, let me rephrase that. I had it. I was getting ready to send it to the so-called bishop, but he never reached out to me. I didn't even he never even reached out to me about it. So I didn't
Okay.
send it to
All
him.
right. So that initially rubbed you the wrong way, the way that they handled that, right? So what
Yeah.
else? What else occurred that made you feel like, yeah, it might be time for me to get out of here?
All right. So they issue garments every year that you have to pay, and they tell you that you have to set up a payment plan with their so-called apostles that's over the Treasury Department.
Okay.
And I didn't have the money to pay for the garment. It was $700. I don't know if you've
Wow.
ever seen the yeah. I don't know if you've ever seen the red and white garment.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Very
that's
fancy.
that's the garment I was supposed to wear. That's the one for the officers of 50 all the way up to the 13 shield generals. Um, and so I couldn't pay for the garment at all in 2024. And if you're ranked, you still have to pay for the garments every year, even if your rank doesn't change. So I ended up having to pay for another one of these same garments the following year in 2025.
So all right.
Um,
So wait a minute. So it's the same style, same design, and everything.
yeah.
So how would they know that it was? You could have been like, you could have just showed them last year's. So how they know the difference?
Well, they make you pay for the garments every year. They issue them out every year and make you pay for them whether your rank changed or not.
That's crazy. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, they keep track of all of that stuff.
Okay.
So now I'm over owing $1,400 for two of the same garment.
Oh
And
wow.
also they also have this thing called the passport ID, which is something else I didn't pay for. It's $100 for this laminated card that has uh my picture, me dressed in a black t-shirt standing up against a white background because that's how they wanted me to take the picture of me.
Right.
Um, it has the so-called Nation of Israel flag, which isn't it's not the State of Israel flag. It's their own made-up flag that it's looks like it's modeled after the U.S. flag, to be honest, because it's got in the left-hand corner a purple square with a white star David in the middle, and then in on the white foreground there's 12 purple pillars that's supposed to
Wow.
represent the 12 tribes of Israel.
So you had to get this quote unquote passport for what reason?
Just because they told us to pay $100 for it, it doesn't serve any purpose.
Wow.
Yeah,
Did they try to like throw a scripture for you? Like they just told you do it. That's it.
yeah.
That's crazy. Okay. All right. So what was like the thing that finally the thing that broke you? It's like, you know what, I'm done.
Okay, so it began with me telling one of their so-called apostle that I couldn't pay for this stuff because I knew that their Passover was coming up, and I knew that if I told them that I wasn't making it, that they were going to chew me out over it. And I had already told the so-called chief priest I had issues trying to make it up there.
Right.
And he just texted me back talking about Shalom, sir. That's why we need a commitment. So he's basically telling me, okay, you're telling me you can't pay for it. Well, you just are gonna have to make a commitment and try to pay for it anyway. And at that point, I'd had enough. I started going on video clips, watching video clips on YouTube of ex members. People like Sam Miguel, the Rebel Alliance Media.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and also Christian apologists like Vocab. Because these dudes had upset me that much that I had gotten sick of all of the verbal abuse that I had went through within the past year with being talked down to, about not only just about missing their Passover, but also there's something else I forgot to mention.
Mm-hmm.
They had, they implemented something in their they made it mandatory for us to have these ranking men's calls on Wednesday nights where all the men in the ranks have to call and um basically hear them reiterate the same orders every week about the orders that we're supposed to be given. And one of the things that they implemented was something called the verbal exam, which is you have 1 week to study one of those DVDs from Tazadakia off the Comforter Stream, which is a $39.99 a month streaming service to stream all of Tazadakia's DVDs. You have to
Wait, wait,
have
wait,
this.
wait. Time out. They had their own streaming service.
Yes,
Wow. Okay. What do they call it?
the Comforter Stream.
Okay, that's simple enough. The Comforter stream, and you had to pay $40 a month for the streaming. So and it was just his stuff, nobody else's.
No, I mean,
Wow.
I mean, it was mostly his DVDs and teachings and speakings at different events, but they also used it for virtual events that they would have.
Okay.
They did virtual Archangel Awards events during COVID, and
Okay.
stuff like
Okay.
that. They also would have different artists in that organization that would have videos on the Comforter Stream. Um, but as far as you had to have it as a man in the so-called ranking structure. And on
Okay.
this verbal exam that they have on Wednesday nights, they implemented you had to be able to answer questions from Tazadaki's DVDs, and you have to explain it exactly the way he broke it down. And basically, you would get asked. Basically, this is how they would do it. Um, okay, it's time for the verbal exam. I hope everybody is studied up, and you should have been studying. And the first man that will have the privilege to answer the first question on the verbal exam is, and then well, let's just use me for an example.
Right.
Uh, it's a chief priest officiating the call. And he'll go, Office of 100 Nepashima, please unmute your mic. And then I say, Shalom, chief priest. And then he'll go, Shalom, Office of 100 Nepashima. How you doing, sir? Then I'll say, Tawab, sir, Tawab. That's how they say good in Lashawan's Kodash, Tawab.
Okay.
Then he'll go, yes, sir. Did you study the DVD? And then I say, yes, I did, sir. And then he'll go, are you ready for your question? And then I'll go, yes, sir. All right, all right. Then he'll ask the question. Now, depending on whether you answer right, if you answer the question correctly, he'll go, that's exactly the answer, sir. That's exactly the answer, sir. Good job, sir. And you keep up the good work, sir. Keep studying, you know. And you can go ahead and put your phone back on mute, sir. And then he'll proceed to the next person.
Right.
If you don't answer the question right, then he'll go, no, sir. That's not the correct answer. That's not the correct answer, sir. He'll repeat the answer, and then he'll tell you, well, you know what you got to do right now, sir, right, sir? And then you have to say, yes, sir. What is it you have to do? Um, I have to come back next week with the answer, sir. And then he'll say, do you need me to repeat the question? And then if you need him to repeat the question, he'll do it. And then he'll say, so you're going to come back next week with the answer, right? Then you have to say yes.
Mhm.
And what kind of made it difficult for me is in the middle of my deconstruction process, I was just quietly deconstructing this doctrine, and in the process of doing it, I canceled my subscription to the Comforter Stream, so I didn't have it anymore. And I dreaded getting on those calls and being asked to
Right.
answer a question because I didn't have their streaming service that I was wasting $40 a month on.
Right. Right.
And you know, a lot of times, whenever I be whenever I would be asked questions, they would give out they would text you a Q&A that had like a questions that might be asked on the exam, and just to get through it, I'd get that Q&A text out, and I would look up the answers, and I'd say the answer.
Right.
Because I wasn't about to study that stuff. After everything the news put me through, I didn't want to watch them DVDs.
So when was your last time being connected? Do you remember the last time where you was like, after this, that was it? Remember that day or moment?
Yeah, so fast forward to November the 14th. I was, after months of deconstructing their doctrine, doing things like reading the Bible on my own. I started reading the writings of the early church fathers. And I started researching the Orthodox Church. The reason why I did this is because ICGJC claims to be the same church that Jesus Christ established over 2,000 years ago. And since they said that, then I wanted to research what exactly did the early Christians really believe. And so after reading the writings of the early church fathers, people like Justin Martyr, Irenaeus, Ignatius of Antioch, Polycarp, I'm starting to see that these are the men that bled and died for the faith, and they're saying that they don't keep the Sabbath. They're saying, they don't keep dietary laws. They keep the Eucharist, which is completely different from these
Mm-hmm.
Hebrew Israelites Passover.
Right.
So it just intrigued my interest, and it makes me think, if the early Christians wasn't keeping these laws I'm being made to keep, why am I doing it? So I eventually get in contact with Greek Orthodox priests and tell them my story, Coptic Orthodox priests, and in one of the Coptic Orthodox priests, his name is Father Lazarus Yassa of Christ the Good Shepherd American Coptic Orthodox Church in Long Beach. He's real popular online. I got in contact with him after watching his divine liturgies that his church that he live streams,
Right.
and I told him my story and everything. And in November of 2025, we were just talking one night, and he asked me, so your old group, are they still contacting you? And I said, well, yeah, but it's stressful still getting on these calls and everything, still having to watch these DVDs and stuff like that. And they had me in contact with them through Signal. And if I leave the Signal group chat, they're gonna see it. And he was like, well, just delete the app. And at that point, I just I just had to, I just went ahead and did it because enough was enough. It was either now or never. And especially at the time, I was getting therapy while I was still in that place. And I had to think to myself, I'm not going to heal from the trauma that I've been subjected to in this place if I'm still a part of it and still got these people breathing down my neck and got this man Tarzadakis breakdowns in my ear and these chief priests and hearing them teach and all of that. I got to get out of here. So
Mm-hmm.
the first step I did was delete that Signal app. The second step was blocking the numbers of so-called chief priests and apostles that I knew would contact me. But unfortunately for me, I didn't block all of them. But I'll get to that in a second. That following Friday night was the first Sabbath I ever had, not having to listen to this cult's teachings, and I was completely free. And I started hooking up with ex-members beginning that Friday night. I got in contact with San Miguel. The brother Jim Green hooked me up with San Miguel, and I told the brother Jim Green, I know San Miguel because me and him were in ICUJC at the same time. So
Right. Right.
you know, um, so the following week after that happened, after I made my mind up that I was done with this place, and I had skipped their ranking men's call on a Wednesday night. The next Thursday, I get this weird call from a Detroit number, a number from with a 313 area code, and I don't know who it is, so I dismissed the call. I rejected the call, and then seconds later, this person is calling me again. I reject the call. I don't know who that is. It could be some kind of telemarketer for all I know. I get weird
Right. Right.
calls like that. I get
Right.
weird calls like that all the time. Then minutes later, I get a text from whoever this guy is, and he tells me his name, and he tells me, when you see this, text me back. And I had to think about it. is this somebody from ICGJC trying to text me? So I just texted the dude back saying, if this is somebody from ICGJC, don't contact me anymore. Okay. I don't believe in your doctrine no more. Your doctrine is heresy. You know, so don't contact me anymore. You can go tell whoever you want to tell, but don't contact me anymore after this. And they blocked my access to the Comforter stream and off of their ICGJC social media site. Okay, they had their own social media site too. And that's how I knew they I was out because they blocked access to both of those things. And
Wow.
I've been I've been free from them ever since. They haven't contacted me since.
Wow. That's deep. You know what's interesting, Willie? Um, so I got to know you basically, from Faithful. Shout out to Faithful to God. And we was preparing for this to do this stream, and I wasn't Facebook friends with you. I just wasn't, because people will actually be friends, and I'm like, if I don't really know you, I'm not gonna really, But now I've gotten to know you. We became friends, and you inboxed me like a couple of years ago. Was it a couple of years ago? When was it? It was.
It might have been after I left.
Yeah, it was on the 2025.
Mm-hmm.
And you was talking about how you was looking at some of my videos and how you've been deconstructing. And for me, that means a lot to me because, I'm a very small channel. Even though I've been doing this for a while, I have a small channel. And the temptation is to believe that, no one really cares what I'm doing. You know what I mean? I'm not a big deal at all. But then, every once in a while, God reminds me that, you can have an impact regardless if you're a large platform or a small platform. And just seeing you, that what I've been putting out played a small part in your deconstruction from that, encouraged me a lot. So I just want to thank you for, looking at my material and how it has, helped you in some way, shape, or form. So I appreciate that. You know what I mean, Willie? So I just want to put that out there. But now that we're on the other side, wow. And he's gone again. All right. So, but yeah, so I'll continue. Hopefully he'll come back. But it's very encouraging to know that here he is. There you go. There you go. So yeah, so again, bro, I really appreciate you, reaching out, even though I didn't know you at the time. But anyway, now that you are a true believer in Christ, a disciple of Jesus, looking back at what you experienced, what are one or two things that you learned that you want other people to know if they're contemplating in joining any of these One West camps?
What I would want them to know is, if you're thinking about joining any of these camps, don't, because basically this doctrine is demonic, hateful, and racist. It's ungodly, and the enemy, the evil one, Satan, he will package up this doctrine and make it so appealing to you and make you think that you're really learning the true gospel of Jesus Christ and you're learning heresy. And the true gospel of Jesus Christ is outlined by the apostle Paul in First Corinthians chapter 15 verses 1 through 3. His death, his burial, and his resurrection. And there is no way in the New Testament that the gospel ever changed. The good news, it never changed from what Paul, who was an actual apostle of Jesus Christ, said it was.
Mm-hmm.
You have to understand that groups like this will try to make not just identity or a false identity that doesn't even belong to any of the people on that 12 tribes chart, will try to make that something that's appealing to you and make you feel like the reason why you have suffered, your race has suffered, is because you're God's chosen people. When the Apostle Paul already said, there is no Jew, no Greek, there is no bond, no free, there is no slave, there is no male nor female, for there we are all one in Christ Jesus. Your identity is in Christ Jesus,
That's right.
not in the 12 tribes chart, not in what you think is, what you think is an Israelite or one of the tribes of Israel. Your identity is in Christ Jesus. And right now, these Hebrew Israelite groups, they're outside of the faith of Christ because they're not believing in the Christ of Scripture, but who died for all nations of people, because they already believe in another Christ that only died for Israelites, that wants to subject followers to the law of Moses, the same law of Moses that the apostles themselves called a yoke which neither they nor their own forefathers could bear. Okay, they already made the decision that newly converted believers were not to, they didn't have to adhere to those things that these Hebrew Israelites mandate that their followers keep. And yet you have a group that's going to go against the decision of Christ's actual apostles and force you to keep these laws. So you have to see right there that if you're even contemplating being taught by these guys, you're about to walk right into learning antichrist gospel. I know ICGJC likes to call ex-members antichrist. The doctrine of one West is antichrist, period. Okay, so if you're thinking about joining any of these groups, don't, please.
Mm-hmm.
That doctrine is going to lead you to the lake of fire.
Wow. Amen. Amen. So, Willie, I know you do a lot of stuff with Faithful, but you have your own channel, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk about that. How can people reach out and look at your material, Willie? If you want to put it in the chat, feel free. Put the link in the chat so people can subscribe to Brother Willie. Willie is a great resource for the body of Christ. If you have friends and family, co-workers who are either currently involved in this doctrine or maybe they're on their way out and they don't know how to maneuver, Willie will be a great resource. Make sure that they can link up with Willie, and he could definitely because he's been through it. With me, I've never been there, so they could quickly brush me off. You can't brush off Willie. Really lived this. You know what I mean? So he has, his words carry a lot of weight because he experienced it. So please like, share, and subscribe to Willie and to his channel. And while he's doing that, Willie, is there any upcoming videos that you're doing, maybe with Faithful or on your own channel, that we should be aware of?
Yeah, I'll be, I stream live with Faithful every week, Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay. Definitely. I also get down with Faithful on Saturdays, most Saturdays, so you can always look forward to that as well. But yeah, bro. So any final thoughts while we wrap this up?
Well, yeah, just if you're thinking of, again, if you're thinking about getting involved with this cult, don't. And if you know anybody that is, just keep them lifted in prayer, because I have to say this: I was in it for over 22 years, and you're not just gonna if you're somebody that's really down with this doctrine, it's going to be very difficult to just think that you're just going to talk them out of it. I had to deconstruct and make decisions.
Oh, I think that might be it. So, man, I think we learned a lot from Brother Willie. Again, I was very honored to have him on. First time I've ever really had somebody who used to be a part of this belief system. I learned a lot. I don't know about you guys in the chat. I know I learned a whole bunch. How crazy, how they really try to just suck every dollar out of you. The fact that you had to buy the same outfit every year is crazy work, right? It's like, And them dress was 700. I mean, they're fancy, yeah, but 700, my guy. That's. And then if you don't change rank, you needed the same outfit, even though you brought it last year. And then you owe if you don't buy it. Crazy work. That's crazy work. And people were doing it. That's how they were able to afford, getting Slick Rick and Carl Thomas to perform at their award ceremony. So, but I don't know if we're gonna see Willie come back, but Willie, man, it was an honor to have you. Thank you for sharing your story. It's great to see you in the body of Christ and helping other people to get away from this rank heresy. So, with that being said, guys, shout out to Brother Willie, and this is BK, and I'm signing off. Peace.